I'm Keisha Butts with a CTV News update. County Executive Angela Osterbrooks is warning residents today of a slight uptick in COVID-19 numbers. Byron Scott has our story.
Here are the latest numbers: 22,000 confirmed cases in Prince George's County and 730 deaths. Officials today at a press conference announcing that there has been a slight increase in the number of cases and hospitalizations. And also today, Angela Osterbrooks said 44% of new infections in Prince George's County are connected to large family gatherings and large parties.
We are unfortunately seeing, and there's one in every crowd, some who are trying to circumvent the order by holding large house parties with hundreds of people in attendance. And these parties are unsafe. They could lead to additional spread of COVID-19. In fact, they're almost certain to lead to additional spread of COVID-19. And that's why we are taking swift action to stop parties like these from happening. We cannot say it enough. COVID-19 is still very much a part of our community. The pandemic's not over. The pandemic continues, and we need people to operate as if this is the case. And so it is important that you continue to wear those facial coverings, that you practice social distancing.
Statewide, Governor Larry Hogan has expanded the masking order. It goes into effect tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Anyone in a business is required to wear a mask while in a public space, and also anyone outside required to wear a mask where social distancing is not possible. I'm Byron Scott.
The nation gives a final farewell to Congressman John Lewis. Funeral services were held in Atlanta today for the longtime civil rights activist. He served in Congress for about more than 3 decades. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joined 3 former presidents paying tribute to Lewis. Presidents Bush, Clinton, and Obama all honored him as a special American.
John Lewis was many things, but he was a man. A friend in sunshine and storm, a friend who would walk the stony roads that he asked you to walk, that would brave the chastening rods he asked you to be whipped by, always keeping his eyes on the prize, always believing none of us will be free until all of us are equal.
Lewis was 80 years old. A prominent figure in the Republican Party has died of coronavirus. Herman Cain, a former GOP presidential candidate, was 74 years old. He was co-chair of Black Voices for Trump and the former CEO of Godfather's Pizza. It's not known where Cain contracted the virus, but he attended a Trump rally in Oklahoma where 8 staffers tested positive for COVID-19. You can now get free testing for COVID-19 at a medical center in Fort Washington. Adventist Healthcare is providing the test at its primary care location on Indian Head Highway. They're being offered Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 7:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Some of the testing sites so far established are somewhere around 15 to 20 miles from the residents of the area. And this is consistent with how they get their healthcare in general. So we have been anxious to support the need of the community in testing.
You don't need to schedule an appointment, and you're encouraged to get tested. A former Maryland lawmaker will spend the next 2 years in federal prison for wire fraud and bribery. Cheryl Glenn was sentenced in federal court yesterday, with the judge saying she sold her office in a deliberate scheme. Glenn pleaded guilty to accepting $33,000 in bribes for political favors. The lawyer who represents a dozen minority police officers in Prince George's has sent a letter to the interim chief and county executive asking them to diversify the ranks. Because the last promotions test was canceled due to the pandemic, Lawrence Holzman says the current list is still active. That list includes many officers of color. Holzman says the department can select officers from that list today.
We've got a whole group, a list of police officers who've been vetted, tested, they meet all the requirements and standards, and so there's no reason to not promote them. And at the same time, if you do it, you can take credit for starting to fix the problem in the demographics in the county.
The department is facing a legal complaint about bias in disciplinary actions and promotions. Montgomery County Police will now have to adopt policies that bar chokeholds and limit no-knock warrants. The change is mandated by a new use use of force measure adopted by the County Council. The measure prohibits police from striking a person who is already restrained and bars officers from firing their weapons at moving vehicles. Officers would still be able to use deadly force as a last resort. NASA launches its next-generation spacecraft to Mars. The Perseverance rover and its Ingenuity helicopter are now on a 7-month journey to the Red Planet. Patricia Vallone has more on the mission.
One of the most predominant being that it's looking for ancient signs of ancient life on Mars.
Aaron Yazi is talking about the Perseverance rover. The spacecraft successfully launched this morning and will be part of a long line of rovers sent to Mars beforehand. But this one will have a new set of science goals.
There's a system that we're starting with this mission that is what we call Mars sample return. So this is the first and maybe a series of 3 missions that we hope to send to Mars to be able to successfully bring back rock samples preserved in sealed tubes back to Earth so that we can study them here on Earth with all the powerful technology that we have here. And so all of that is hopefully to find once and for all if life ever existed on Mars.
A mechanical engineer with NASA, Yazi has spent the last 4 years building drill assemblies for the rover to drill into rocks on the surface of Mars.
We have a giant rotary percussive drill at the end of an arm and a robotic arm that can reach out and drill into rocks, pass those up back into an entire system where we pass this tube of rock sample from one system to the next, and then eventually hermetically seal those tubes.
Scientists say the Perseverance mission required an extreme clean room to prevent any human byproducts from possibly contaminating the Red Planet. Patricia Vallone, CTV News.
A car-sized rover is expected to reach its destination on February 18, 2021. Mystery seeds from China are making their way into Americans' mailboxes across the country. Agricultural officials say they know of at least 100 packets that have arrived in Maryland and are issuing warnings not to plant the foreign seeds to prevent invasive species from growing. USDA says it believes the unsolicited mailings are part of an international internet scam.
We do not have any evidence indicating that this is something other than the so-called brushing scam, where people receive unsolicited items from a seller who then posts false customer reviews to boost their sales.
If you receive an unsolicited package of seeds, contact the Maryland Department of Agriculture at 410-841-5790. You're asked to save the seeds and the package they came in, including the mailing label. Officials say you shouldn't open the packets or plant any of the seeds. The U.S. economy declined 9.5% from April to June. That's the worst quarterly decline ever, according to the U.S. Commerce Department. The COVID-19 outbreak has shuttered countless businesses and put millions out of work, sending the jobless rate to 14.7%. Employ Prince George's continues to offer a helping hand. The agency was in Glendale this morning handing out cash gift cards. The cards were set aside for hourly workers laid off because of the coronavirus. Today's event was for Council District 4 residents. Do you remember the furloughed Cheesecake sisters? Well, they're back up to serving sweet slices of dessert, this time at their new store at the National Harbor, which opened today. The 2 sisters from Prince George's County first started their business when they found themselves without an income during the 2018 government shutdown. Now they're selling many items from key lime to cookies and cream to sweet potato cheesecake.
Once again in a pandemic, we're taking another leap of faith to thrive as a business, to continue to share a slice of smile with our community.
Opening a business with my sister in 2019 and continuing it on, it feels right. It is right for us to be here at the National Harbor, and today is National Cheesecake Day, and we get to open our business with the community, celebrate National Cheesecake Day, and continue to spread a slice of smile, just like Sissy said.
Sisters Jackie Wright and Nikki Howard say their favorite flavors are lemonade and banana pudding. And that wraps up our CTV News update. Join us again tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Have a good night.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit princegeorgescountymd.gov. That's princegeorgescountymd.gov. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.